Chapter 13 Choices Lunar date 3.1625.5.2 10 hours and 2 minutes after day rise. Daniel smiled as Komi pulled away from him after congratulating him with a kiss, her wild cherry perfume still clinging to the collar of his shirt. "Fantastic shot! Break the record and I may have to give you another kiss," Komi replied coyly. Daniel gripped the weapon tightly in his hand. A group of onlookers were surrounding them now. Ever since the incident at the prep tournament, he had become the center of attention whenever he was around others his age or younger. He was praised for his response to Nolen. The hub was still alive with reactions and comments flowing in from all over Palmara. And with that came even more prestige. It felt good to be adored by the masses. Komi and he met up a few times at the academy, mainly to make plans for the summer. This was their first time being with one another outside of the halls of the school. They spent the whole day together in Trufon and were planning to take a walk in Toriel Park later in the evening before Komi needed to return to her hometown of Hurston. Thankfully, it was only an hour away by Cosmospeeder. Currently, Daniel was playing a simulated shooter game called Sentry at Cooper's Gaming Cafe. The crowd was cheering Daniel on as he prepped for his next engagement. The game was simple, yet difficult at times. The object of the game was to guard the base from an onslaught of enemies in rounds called waves. If he died, or the base was destroyed, the game ended. Using a fake lunar rifle, Daniel's motions and actions were recorded by his Nexus and transferred to the game on the holographic screen on the wall for all to see. Each round allowed Daniel to heal up from damage, fortify his base, and secure more ammo. The record for rounds survived was 76. He was currently beginning round 77. If he lived, he'd gain some prestige and a kiss from Komi. Maybe even more. Round 77 included 9 waves of enemies. He positioned himself on a cliff overlooking the base and took aim. Most players defended from on top of the walls of the base. In the earlier rounds, this was a smart strategy. In the later rounds, however, the enemies were more accurate and powerful. By now, Daniel invested enough into his base that it could protect itself from most attacks. With the enemies focused on the base, he was able to pick them apart from a distance. Still, he was alert to his surroundings. The computer-controlled enemies learned and adapted with each new round. It was possible he'd be discovered and if he wasn't careful, might die and lose the record. Chants of his name started after the 5th wave was defeated. Daniel tried to drown them out, but was failing to do so. Why have I been running from this my whole life? This is where I belong. I can do so much more for this world with better prestige. More than Dorn ever could. He wasn't sure why he had that last thought. He shook it from his mind. Daniel relocated to a different cliff and started firing at the enemies below. As expected, the enemies were focused on his previous location. It made killing them even easier. The chants grew louder once he finished Wave 8. Even more adrenaline built up inside of him as he anticipated the final wave. Just one more, Daniel. You can do this. Wave 9 boasted 23 enemies. In the first 4 minutes, Daniel killed 11 and his base wiped out 8. Only 4 enemies remain, and the record is mine. 2 of the enemies were still pelting his base, which was still above 50% health. He wasn't concerned about them. They'd die eventually. It was the other 2 enemies that dominated his mind. From the right, a shot hit him and he lost a third of his health. Jumping up, Daniel repositioned behind a rock. He saw the enemy who hit him. Taking a deep breath, he leapt out and ended its life. He didn't have too much time to celebrate. Another shot hit him from behind. One more and I'm dead! Daniel dropped to the ground and lined up his gun. The enemy was blurred by some foliage. I have to shoot. He started firing where he expected the soldier to be and he was rewarded with the sound of a kill shot. 2 seconds later, the round ended with his base getting the final kill. Komi leapt into his arms, wrapped her legs around him, and kissed him passionately. Pausing the game, the cheers continued for a solid 5 minutes before Daniel could focus enough to continue his run. He managed to survive 3 more rounds, finally dying in round 81. Grabbing some lutema and fries with gravy, Komi and Daniel snuggled into a nearby booth and enjoyed their meal. While they were eating, people continued to congratulate him on his run. Daniel took a moment to glance down at his Nexus. He had gained 500 prestige. What are your plans for after graduation? Komi laid her head on Daniel's shoulder. Her curly sky blue hair was pulled back in a ponytail. He wrapped his arm around her waist. My career path is set to become a history teacher, Daniel said automatically. History teacher? Komi giggled. That sounds boring and not very prestigious. Is there nothing else you can do? A wave of shame overcame Daniel. This was the first time someone called his career choice boring. Yeah, I guess it does sound boring, he lied. If I want to keep whatever this is going with Komi, I should play along. Honestly, I haven't fully decided yet. There are still other options available to me. Oh? Like what? Well, Daniel stretched out the word, buying himself time. There aren't many super prestigious careers connected to history. I've debated possibly becoming a documenter for the ruling families of the different nations. I'd be able to travel the world and rub shoulders with some of the most prestigious people around. Again, he was lying. The thought never crossed his mind before. Really? Komi looked up at him. That does sound exciting. I could get used to a life like that. This was the first time Komi even hinted at a future between them. What about you? What career are you pursuing? I'm a musician. That's cool. What do you play? Guitar mostly. She sat up and stared dreamily out into the blue sky. My hope is to one day sing in front of the whole world. Komi glanced over at him with a smile. Maybe if I stick with you, that might actually happen. Hey, if you stick to it, anything can happen. He reassured her with a light squeeze into her side. Never give up on your dreams. Komi leaned up and kissed him on the lips. Thanks. Why don't we get out of here and go to Toriel Park? She asked. You have been raving about the waterfalls, and I'd like to see them. Sounds good to me, Daniel agreed. The talk about their potential future was intriguing, but it could be picked up at a different time. He was excited to show her the waterfalls. They were one of his favorite locations in all of Trufon. They left Cooper's and walked towards Toriel Park in the middle of Trufon. On their walk, people kept stopping them to greet Daniel and give him props for standing up to Nolen. This is what it feels like to be on top of the world. I never want to come back down. I've been thinking, Komi stated when they were nearly to the park. I have enjoyed my time getting to know you. Same, Daniel admitted. He left silent at the fact that it was helping him forget about Abigale. A mixture of anger and sadness crowded his heart at the thought of her name. No, she made her choice, and I am making mine. I was with Nolen for nearly 3 years. Heat rose in Daniel's face at the mention of Nolen's name. Is she thinking of getting back with him? Oh yeah? He tried to sound uninterested. Yeah, and I was wondering if you were okay with us being non-exclusive. At least for a little bit. Test the waters, see who was out there for us. Maybe we are meant to be together. Maybe not. Won't know unless we try our options. At first, Daniel was unsure of her proposal. He recalled the looks some of the other girls were giving him back at Cooper's, and he started warming up to the idea. Yeah, I don't mind that. I still want to see you, of course. Absolutely, I won't be going anywhere. She squeezed his hand with comfort. Arriving at the park, the hours shifted to after night rise. Hundreds of people were still enjoying the activities at Toriel Park. Parents and their kids were splashing around in the saltwater pool. Other kids were exploring the gigantic play castle with slides, climbing walls, trampolines, and other fun areas. And still, like Daniel and Komi, there were those simply enjoying the evening with a stroll through the park. This place is amazing! Komi ran over to a nearby bridge stretched over a small stream of water. Did you want to race sticks? Daniel was transported back years in his mind. He saw a younger version of himself with Emmy and Seth dropping sticks on one side of the same bridge, racing to the other side and waiting to see whose stick won. Guilt gripped his heart. He ignored it. Sure, he smiled, erasing the memory from his mind's eye. They scanned the nearby grassy area and found some twigs to use. Back on the bridge, they dropped them at the same time and ran to the opposite side. 10 seconds later, Komi's stick emerged first. I win! Best 2 out of 3. Finding more sticks, they repeated the race. This time, Daniel won. The third and final race was determined by centimeters, with Komi emerging as victorious. That was fun. Komi grabbed his hand. Now show me these waterfalls you've been bragging about. Daniel led her throughout the park. As they walked deeper, the forest trees grew more abundant with oak, willow, birch, and elm trees. Amidst their conversations, Daniel received a Nexus call from his parents. At first, he wanted to ignore it. However, Komi saw them calling and said he should answer. He asked for some space and she graciously gave it. His parents only knew he was with a friend. They didn't know it was Komi. Strangely enough, neither of them brought up the prep tournament to him. He wasn't sure if he should be scared or thankful. Hey, Dad. Hey, Daniel. Tallon and I were going to go stargazing tonight out in the bluffs. We were wondering if you wanted to join us. Dad, I told you I was hanging out with a friend tonight. Maybe some other time. Okay. Sadness was present in his father's voice. Well, Tallon said you promised him that you would come tonight. Daniel recalled he had made that promise when he first returned home. That was before I knew Komi was coming. My friend is only in town for today. I can join you some other time. All right, Daniel. Be home by 3 hours after nightrise. The time was currently 34 minutes after nightrise. Komi was planning on leaving in 3 hours. Come on, Dad. It's summer. Why do I have to be home so early? Thomas Sheppard sighed loud enough for Daniel to hear him. It was the first time Daniel had pushed back against, well, anything. Very well, 4 hours after nightrise. That should be doable. Thanks, Dad. Should be? Thomas raised his eyebrows. Daniel? Sorry, Dad. He cut his father off. I have to go. Have fun with Tallon. Love you. Bye. Not waiting for the response, he ended the call and rejoined Komi. Everything all right? Oh, yeah, totally. They were just seeing what time I was going to be home. He was mainly telling the truth from a certain point of view. Daniel grabbed Komi's hand. Anyways, let's head to the waterfalls. They continued their peaceful walk through the park and finally arrived at one of the waterfalls. It was a glorious display of water cascading down the cliffside. Small rainbows appeared in the glistening light. A few people were even swimming around in the water, while a couple others were jumping from some of the rocks. It is so beautiful, Komi breathed. This isn't even the best one. Follow me. They climbed some nearby stone stairs and walked for another 5 minutes deeper into the forest. As they came around a bend, they witnessed another pristine waterfall. At the base, the pool of water was as clear as a freshly cleaned glass. No one was present. Did you want to go for a swim? Komi questioned, already slipping out of her sandals. Daniel hesitated. I didn't bring anything to swim in, unfortunately. That's fine, Komi winked. Neither did I. Gulping, Daniel watched as Komi removed her shirt and unzipped her shorts. She was standing in only her matching set of purple undergarments. What? You didn't think I meant we'd be swimming naked, did you? Besides, she walked over to him and kissed him gently on the cheek. That is like a third or fourth date kind of thing. Daniel wasn't sure to take her forwardness. Abigail was nothing like... Stop. You aren't with Abigail. Why should I wait for marriage anyways? If Komi is willing at some point, then maybe I should. What could the harm be? This is my life after all, my choices. Why not enjoy it while I can? Removing his shirts and his own shorts, Daniel felt somewhat exposed in his red boxers. He pushed past his shame and followed Komi into the water. They played, splashed, and laughed for what seemed like hours, even though only a few minutes passed. In the distance, on the horizon, the sun began to disappear behind the trees. Daniel reached over and pulled Komi into his arms. Her legs wrapped around his waist, and they kissed. He didn't want the time to end, and yet, at the same time, there was a hollowness in his heart. Something was off. He ignored the feeling and continued to kiss Komi. Komi reached behind her back and started to unclip her bra. No one was around, and Daniel knew very rarely people came to this waterfall. Still, something inside of him made him pull away, his heart beginning to race. I thought you said that was a third or fourth date thing. I did, she flirtatiously smiled. Figured I'd give you a little sneak peek. A war erupted inside of Daniel. One side told him to say no, and the other side pulled for him to say yes. When he opened his mouth, he didn't know which side was going to win. As much as this would be fun and adventurous, we are still somewhat out in public. Still shows my interest, but allows me to avoid it for now and hopefully not push her away. She stopped and tilted her head slightly to the right. You're right. She fastened her bra back. Last thing we want is some little kids coming around the corner. Exactly, Daniel laughed, relieved. Not letting the awkwardness last any longer, Daniel splashed some water up into Komi's face and then dove under the water. I can't ruin this. People love me. They want to be around me. This is my life now, and I don't want to go back to the way it was. Komi and he continued to swim and play, mixed with a few more kisses for another half an hour before emerging from the water. Only then did they realize they didn't have any towels to dry off. They both used their shirts to dry what they could and put their shorts back on before returning to the entrance of the park. On their way back to where they had parked, they grabbed some ice cream. Even though the sun was setting, the lingering warmth of the day had dried them off already. They both ordered a cone with chocolate chip cookie dough. Daniel was still wrestling with whether he made the right choice or not back at the waterfall. I will see her again. If she is willing, maybe next time I won't push her away. I had a great time today, Daniel. One of the best days in a long time. Me too. Maybe next time I can come up to Hurstum and you can show me around. I'd love that. Let me know a time that works for you. Sure thing, he smiled warmly. Upon reaching their Cosmospeeders, Daniel and Komi hugged and kissed goodbye. He waited for her to leave before making his way over to his speeder. He had 15 minutes to get home. More than enough time. He opened up the door and was about to get in when he heard a voice call out from across the street. Hey there! Daniel looked up and saw a young woman, probably a year or two older than him, dressed in a short green summer dress with straight teal hair. Hello, can I help you with something? You are Daniel Sheppard, right? Pride surged through his body. Yes, I am. And you are? My name is Cassia. Wanted to say I'm a big fan of the Shadow Gryphons. I know you may not be on the team right now, but you are my favorite player. He blushed and scratched the back of his head. Well, thank you. I was gonna go grab a small bite to eat nearby. I didn't want to sound forward, but did you want to join me? Daniel's father's words resounded in his head. 4 hours after night rise. He closed the door to his speeder. I can sneak back in. They won't even realize I'm not there. Besides, Komi said we weren't exclusive. Sure, I'd love to. Thank you for listening to my book Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hinei Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.